Alright guys, on today's video we will be replacing the gas tank under the vehicle on this 2009 Hyundai Accent. And the reason we're going to be replacing this fuel tank is for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that it's leaking fuel already. As you can see, it is rusted throughout the whole circumference of the fuel tank, and right here is where it gets really bad, and it actually leaks fuel if you have over, let's say, 40% of fuel in the gas tank. So we're going to be dropping this entire fuel tank. I'll be showing you guys what you have to do. And we just pulled this fuel tank from the junkyard. This is a fuel tank off a 2008 Kia Rio. Very similar, small differences. Hopefully it's all gonna work out and we'll be able to drop it in and give the Hyundai a little bit more life. I'm gonna try to keep my opinions of the build quality from this Hyundai out from this video, but if you're watching it, you might be having the same build quality issues as I am. Alright, the first thing we're gonna do is remove the rear seats of the vehicle. The rear seats are hanging on by two clips on both ends here of the vehicle, and there is one, I believe, 10mm screw that you're gonna have to undo, and you pull the seats out. After that, you got your little fuel pump door that is just held on by some adhesive glue. Once you pull on it and pry it off, you'll be able to remove that fuel door. And right over here underneath the door, there is one clip you have to remove, which is right over here. So we're gonna remove that clip right now. Once you remove that clip, you're able to kind of wiggle this whole cap away, and you have access to the fuel pump. Now this is the evap line, and this right here is the fuel line. So we're gonna be shortly removing both in order to drop the tank. The fuel tank is being held on by 4 bolts right over here, right over here, right over here, and right over here. So we're gonna go under the car. We're gonna spray those bolts down and sand them so we have a little easier time trying to not strip the bolts and not break the bolts. And other than that, this is where the evap canister sits. So we're gonna go under the car, disconnect some parts from the evap canister, some power lines, and we'll disconnect those fuel lines, so then we can just drop that fuel tank that's under the car as a whole down, and it won't be connected to anything important. Under the car, you can see how rusted the screws are, and that's why we really have to scrub this down. Under the car, we're gonna remove the vent valve clip right over here, disconnect the power from it, and we're going to disconnect the power to the fuel tank pressure sensor, which is right over here. As you guys see, that's the fuel tank pressure sensor harness, so we removed that. At this point, we're going to try removing the filler neck hose that attaches to the gas tank, and I think it's going to be easiest to try to disassemble it from this part instead of the fuel part, because as you can see, it's pretty rusted over there, as it is here, but it's easier to access right over here. You will also see some e-brake cables brackets. You got one bracket here, one bracket here, and a third bracket here, and a fourth bracket here. So you want to disconnect all these brackets that are on the front side of the tank. That's just gonna help you drop that tank. I don't think that exhaust is gonna be a problem. I think we can wiggle our way around it, but if it is, we can try taking it off the hangers to give us a little bit more clearance to drop the fuel tank. Alright, we're in the fuel tank now. We're gonna squeeze these tabs and you pull out your vent valve, and after squeezing the fuel line, you get a little bit of fuel coming out, and at this point you can drop the tank. All right, so we got the bolts pretty much loose. As you can see, the gas tank and everything else is moving already. So I'm just gonna undo the last 2 bolts here, and we're gonna pull the gas tank out. All right, so I got most of the fuel tank dropped. I had to drop the exhaust hangers from the muffler right over here and from the base, and that gave me enough room to drop the fuel tank. And I just gotta pull it out from here. Daj trochę do góry, ale podnieś kurwa od bazy. Dobra, zostaw tu. There you go, folks. So like I said, this is the fuel line, this is the evap line. These right here were tricky because they were super rusted, but luckily these bolts came out just fine. And you got the filler neck, and this is for the vent valve right here. I think it's time to compare the tanks, and we'll see how they look like. All right guys, so we got both tanks out. Again, this is the OEM tank, and this is the one from the 08 Kia. Again, so Hyundai, 09 Hyundai Accent, 08 Kia Rio. Visually they look very similar. The only difference that I'm noticing is this is the OEM Hyundai tank. It just has a filler neck right over here, where the Kia tank has a filler neck, and this went to the filler neck. So I think the filler necks on the Kias and the Hyundais are a little different. So worst case, what we're gonna do is just cap this off or cut this off and put like a screw in here so we don't lose any tank pressure from there. And again, as you can see, the condition of this tank, this is where it was leaking all around this area when we had a lot of gas. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disassemble the vapor canister, take all its components, and we're gonna probably reassemble it over there in a little bit. But we still want to flex seal this tank, and we still want to swap over the OEM fuel pump assembly into that tank. And before we do all that, I still want to clean the inside of that tank. So I'm not sure how we're gonna clean it, but we definitely need to clean it before we swap it out, because when I was dropping it from the junkyard, you know, there's some crud in there from all the rust and corrosion. But everything else looks very similar, so this should be a very nice fit. All right, so we took these 2 bolts off for the canister. This bracket, as you can see, it's already disintegrated on the canister. We unhooked part of the tubing here, and we unhooked this tubing here, and essentially the canister comes out. We're gonna just clean this canister, make sure it's good, make sure nothing's going crazy. I'm gonna examine some of these lines, because as you can see, everything's dry rotted to hell. Some of these hoses are already disintegrated. But yeah, we're gonna take a quick peek. And again, after confirming, the only difference between the tanks, I think at this point, is just this extra line, which we will block off. I removed the 8mm screws from here, so that's probably gonna get the wire wheeled and cleaned and spray painted with the rust converter as well. And let's take a quick peek here at the pump. Not the cleanest, not the worst. The tank definitely looks a little different. Everything is white in there, and everything is like orange brownish color here, and that's about it. So we'll see how everything goes. We'll clean it all off. All right, just want to recap real quick. The tanks on the inside are a little different. For example, this one only has 1 or 2 holes here, and this one has a bunch of holes in there. The bottom piece looks very similar on both ends, but when I put the fuel pump in here, it sits and floats. When I put that fuel pump in here, I have to kind of really squeeze it in because it seems like it's not as tall, or whatever the basket is on the inside is sitting a little higher. So I'm gonna have to squeeze it in and clamp it down and hope it seals, and hope it still picks up fuel properly from wherever the pickup is, which is, I'm sure, is right here. I don't want it to get suffocated and then not get fuel pressure or fuel flowing through it. I'm using a black Flex Seal, and we're gonna Flex Seal the whole perimeter of the gas tank. We already used rust converter by Rust-Oleum, so you know, it just kind of helps get the rest of that rust hopefully converted. I sprayed some of that on here as well as around pretty much the openings here. So yeah, we'll Flex Seal it. Hopefully it lasts a little bit longer, you know, but nonetheless, weird how everything's rusting on the edges here. All right, couple coats of Flex Seal all around this fuel tank, and hopefully it holds. Hopefully it helps seal out any future corrosion for the unforeseeable future. I'm going to be cleaning off the pump a little bit. I'm going to clean off that canister for the charcoal canister. We'll let this dry out a little bit, and then we'll reassemble. We'll get it back on the vehicle. As far as the vehicle is concerned, pretty empty over here. I just sprayed the rust converter on these brackets that hold the fuel tank. They are pretty flimsy, and I wire brushed the threads just so it's a little bit easier to reinstall. And other than that, yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Just to recap, 4 bolts hold the fuel tank, and 4 bolts for 4 brackets hold the emergency line brakes, and then you got 2 quick disconnects right over here for the fuel pump and the evap canister, and you got 2 power wires for your vent valve and your pressure sensor in your fuel tank. So not the hardest. Again, I was able to drop this exhaust hanger here and this exhaust hanger here, and we just got the exhaust hanging on the subframe here, and we were able to wiggle it out this way towards the driver's side rear of the car. We were able to tilt that fuel tank and push it out that way. So we're gonna install it the same exact way. But yeah, this car, a lot of rust, man, a lot of things falling apart. All right guys, I got the gas tank pretty much ready to go. I'm going to be using a different clamp on the gas filler neck. For the Kia Rio, we don't need to utilize this line, so I shoved a big bolt in here with some Flex Seal and the clamp, so that should be sealing well. We'll probably zip tie it to the filler neck once we get it installed. And we got all our lines routed back on here. So yeah, the gas tank is hopefully ready to go. One thing I did want to mention is with this, I just put an extra sponge there just because there's a bolt there, and I don't want that bolt to be hitting when driving and eventually causing a hole or something along those lines. And yeah, got the fuel pump installed, squeezed in, pressed in. I actually put a bunch of grease around the seal, then clamped it down just to help it hold better. And I'm gonna let it dry out a little bit more, and we'll reinstall it in the vehicle, and hopefully everything works like a charm. All right guys, well, we got the new fuel tank installed. As you can see, everything's under the car. Everything's buttoned up. I sprayed it all with some more black paint. The only thing that didn't fit, again, is this fuel hose. The Kia Rio had a much shorter hose, about 2 inches shorter, so we had to reuse the filler neck hose from the Hyundai Accent to make it work. And again, that extra hose is just right there, casually gonna just chill over there. But everything is done on the bottom side of the car, as you guys can see. So I'm happily going up to the fuel pump and we're gonna report back. All right, from the top of the car, simple as pop in the fuel, return back in the fuel feed and the evap line. Fuel feed line is in, everything's good. I'm just gonna pop the power in and we're probably gonna start the car as is. We need gas though, so we'll see how much fuel is in there. I'm just concerned if any fuel is leaking here before I cover all this up. Off, on, off, on. Okay, stop. Go ahead, start it. Okay, no leaks right over here from the fuel feed. How much fuel are we showing? Kill it. All right, so
what was that about?
I mean, we might not have fuel because it was reading super empty and it started shuddering. So we'll get more fuel in it and retest. Right now. Okay, well the car's idling. Let's see if it idles a little longer than last time. No check engine light. Oh, it does have a low fuel gauge on, but yeah, that's to be expected. The good thing is no leaks here. Nice and quiet. Let's go look under the car. Check engine lights. We got all the electronics connected, so we're good, man. We're just gonna chill, fill it up fully whenever we get a chance, and yeah. Well guys, here's the summary for the video. Tanked up the car and everything is soaked and leaking actively, as you can see. So this tank somewhere up there is doing a lot worse. This is terrible. Even our tank wasn't leaking this bad. So we'll have to drain it. We'll have to drain whatever drains and figure something else out. So we ended up pulling the gas tank again, and after experimenting with it, we saw that it had a couple pinhole leaks right in this area. I'll show you that in some video clips below. Okay.
It's broken.
I think it's coming from under here too.
Yeah.
Go slow. Yeah, because it seems like it's coming from here, the whole thing. Yeah.
So the whole thing got a bitch?
Yeah.
New car? What do you want, 30 or 40,000?
Alright, it's very slowly, very slowly. Stop.
Oh, that was it? You already got it?
A little more. Okay. Max. And hold it up. And the resolution I had was to put some JB Weld on it, and as you can see, that is JB welded. It's been drying for about 12 hours now, and we're gonna give it probably another day to fully dry, and then we'll turn the tank, see if it has any leaks around this area. Now, something like this, again, it's not the most ideal situation, but it's definitely better than my other tank, which was seeping through the seams. This is a little higher than the seams, so it is less likely to leak. Now, it might hold a full tank of gas and do just fine and hold for some time, or it might slowly seep through here somewhere. Regardless, worst case scenario, you gotta tank up whatever amount of gallons is up to here to keep it below this line, so that constant pressure of the gas in the tank is not trying to push the leak out. But there you guys can have the whole summary, and I'm not gonna do a final wrap-up video because this is gonna be it. If this still leaks, we're gonna end up putting the original fuel tank back on, just flexing it and rolling with it until we probably get rid of this car. But yeah, that's just my documentary of dropping a fuel tank for the first time in a vehicle and trying to work with metal gas tanks that are rusted. If you guys enjoy the video, drop a like, comment down below, and if you feel like you want to join and subscribe to the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but